The Antarctic night was endless, a black sky blanketing a frozen wasteland. Beneath the ice, buried deeper than any storm could reach, the Borealis listening post was never meant to hear anything alive. Its walls groaned under pressure, frost clung to steel beams, and every breath from its staff turned to fog in the frigid air. For months, they'd heard nothing but the static hum of deep space silence, until tonight. The alarm cut through the corridors like a knife. Red warning lights spun across frosted walls as half-asleep scientists stumbled from bunks, pressing earpieces tighter to their heads. On the main console, a signal pulsed jagged alien, not like anything recorded before. Dr. Alina Marquez, the station lead, pressed trembling fingers against the comms interface. "Filter it. Run it through translation," she ordered, her voice steady only because her crew needed it to be. The sound that emerged was wrong, broken, metallic, stretched across eons, as if it had been trapped in the dark for too long. The words were fragmented, a desperate whisper clawing through static. "Do not answer. Predators. Hunt." The caller. The control room froze. Alina leaned closer, her heart hammering. "Play it again," the signal repeated, cycling endlessly. Each time, the same warning. Not a distress beacon, not a call for help, just a desperate plea. "Do not answer." The younger technicians exchanged uneasy glances. Some muttered about interference, others swore the voice sounded terrified. None of them wanted to admit the truth, whatever it wasn't meant for humans. By morning, the transmission had reached governments across the globe. Emergency councils convened behind locked doors. The debates were short, violent, and filled with fear. Some leaders argued for silence, to bury the message and pray the cosmos never noticed Earth had stirred. Others, the scientists, the explorers, the dreamers, argued that humanity had been waiting for this moment. To remain silent would be to deny everything that had driven humanity forward since fire and stone. In dim-lit rooms, maps of the stars shimmered as advisors whispered warnings. If this is real, if there are predators out there answering, could paint Earth as prey. But history had proven one thing: humans had never been prey. The final decision came not from caution, but from defiance. Earth would not stay silent. They would answer. At Borealis Station, the technicians keyed in the transmission. The reply was short, deliberate, and broadcast in every known frequency Earth could muster. A simple declaration, carried into the void: "We hear you." The crew sat in silence as the reply vanished into the abyss. For a long moment, there was no reaction, just the faint hiss of static, the hum of machines, the muffled thunder of wind outside the ice. Then the original message crackled again, only, this time, different. The voice was sharper, more frantic, as if realizing it had been heard. "Fools. You have called them. They will come." Every light in the listening station flickered. The power surged. The signal cut to silence. No one in the room spoke, but in that silence, one thought weighed heavier than the ice above their heads. Something now knew Earth had answered, and whatever it was already listening. The transmission left Earth like a spark hurled into dry grass, invisible to the human eye. It surged across the void, riding on radio waves, bouncing from satellites, amplifying through relays meant for weather reports and deep space scans. In hours, it escaped the solar system. In days, it reached the dark beyond, where silence had ruled for millennia. And something out there heard it. On the edge of a shattered star system, a council chamber hummed with unease. Alien leaders scaled, furred, feathered, and flesh of colors no human would name watched as a holographic pulse rippled through the air. The source blinked at the center of a star map. Sol, Earth. A thin, glass-boned creature shifted nervously, its voice a tremor. "They've spoken. After all this time, the humans are awake." Across the chamber, a warlord with steel plates grafted to its hide laughed bitterly. "No, not awake. Foolish. They've answered a call no sane species touches." The hologram flickered, replaying Earth's reply. "We hear you." The words were simple, but in them was defiance, curiosity, a spark most civilizations had long since smothered. Some on the council panicked, demanding quarantine protocols, warning that the predators would now smell prey. Others sneered, muttering that Earth was a myth, a world scrubbed from galactic memory ages ago for a reason. To them, humanity was a rumor, an ancient ember, buried under ice and ignorance. But tonight, that ember burned again, far away, in places no human had names for. Silent watchers stirred, fleets rerouted, old enemies whispered. Some civilizations barred their borders entirely, terrified that even hearing the signal might draw attention. And still the transmission spread, on a moon orbiting a gas giant. Miners in exosuits froze as "There comes" picked up a faint echo. "We hear you." The phrase wasn't in their language, but its meaning was clear. In a drifting trade station, merchants turned pale as the message replayed in their markets, broadcast across every stall and screen. Some fled, others sealed their ships, and whispered that the lost world had spoken. In the ruined husk of a warship, drifting in the cold between galaxies, something much darker awoke. The ship was alive in ways metal should not be grown, not built, its skin studded with scars of prey, long since consumed. 1,000 eyes flickered open in the void. They had not stirred in centuries, not since the galaxy went silent. But now, prey had called out, and predators always answered back. On Earth, humanity celebrated. They didn't know what storm their message had ignited. For them, it was a triumph the day they proved they were not alone. Cities lit up in festivals, news networks spun with debates, and for once, nations shared a single moment of awe instead of division. But the signal's echo was no celebration across the stars. It was a death knell. A Vakari fleet commander watched the signal with a grim expression. His kind had long remembered what others tried to forget. His claws tightened against the railing of his ship as he muttered, "They've rung the bell, and now the hunters will come." He ordered his fleet to chart a course for Earth, not to conquer, not to trade, but to warn, because in the galactic dark, there was no greater mistake than shouting into the void. The skies above Earth tore open without warning. On a cloudless night, when city lights glittered like jewels and millions slept in peace, the stars shifted. A shadow darker than space itself bled across the heavens, swallowing constellations. Radar stations blinked red. Satellites went blind. Power grids flickered as if something massive had crawled between the world and the stars. And then, the Vakari ship appeared. It was not sleek, not graceful, like the craft of imagination. Its hull was scarred, jagged, and burned from battles older than human history. Entire sections were plated with metal torn from other ships, a patchwork of survival. It didn't hum with elegance, it growled, like a predator daring challengers to come closer. The world erupted. Panic filled governments. Air forces scrambled jets in futility. News channels broadcast grainy footage of the silhouette blotting out the stars. Some screamed invasion, others whispered miracle. But when the Vakari spoke, the world fell silent. The transmission came in every tongue at once, translated by technology humans couldn't comprehend. A voice filled with gravel and old pain, echoing in the bones of everyone who heard it. "Humans, you have spoken. You have answered the call." In the White House Situation Room, advisors froze as the message reverberated through the speakers. In Moscow, generals clutched their chests. In Beijing, leaders whispered prayers. The Vakari commander continued, his words heavy with a weight only survivors carried. "You do not understand what hunts the signal," you answered. "You have called to them, and they will come. Shut your transmissions. Bury your satellites. Hide, if you value your world." Dr. Elena Marquez, watching from Borealis Station, leaned against the console, her mind racing. She had been the first to hear the warning buried in the static. Now, an alien race confirmed it. Predators ancient relentless were coming, but the response from humanity was not what the Vakari expected. In emergency sessions across the globe, leaders debated. Fear dripped from every corner, but so did defiance. The Earth had lived under the shadow of war, extinction, and disaster before. To hide now, to cower, felt like surrender before the fight even began. The Vakari commander's scarred face appeared on a flickering broadcast, his eyes burning with frustration. You do not know them. The Creel are older than your history. They hunt not for conquest, but for silence. They devour voices until none remain. We fought them. We bled. We survived only by forgetting this world, by striking its name from the stars. Earth was erased, so the predators would not look this way again. And now, his voice cracked into a low growl. Now you have undone it. Human leaders were silent. But when the vote came, it was near unanimous. Earth would not hide. The President of the United States spoke for the coalition of nations that had, for once, set aside rivalry. His words echoed across the planet. We thank you for your warning, but humanity has never survived by silence. If predators come, then we will face them. We will not cower. We will not bury ourselves in the dark. The Vakari commander's expression hardened. His jaw clenched, scars twisting with anger. Or was it grief? Then you are already dead. The transmission ended. The Vakari ship remained in orbit, silent, watching, and on Earth, preparations began. Space was not silent, it was sleeping. In the heart of a nebula, where stars had died young, something ancient stirred. For centuries, the galaxy had prayed it would never wake again. For centuries, silence had been their shield. But Earth had shattered that silence with 3 simple words. We hear you. And the Creel heard. Their ships rose from the dust of dead suns, jagged silhouettes shaped like knives pulled from bone. They were not built, they were grown. Their hulls were black carapace, layered with scars from prey species long since consumed, where humans built machines with symmetry. The Creel built hunger, given form. Inside the largest vessel, a cathedral of living metal, the Creel queen opened her many eyes. Her body stretched across the chamber like a nightmare sculpted from flesh and steel, her claws digging into the floor as though anchoring herself to the universe. The signal replayed in the chamber. We hear you, the queen hissed, her voice like knives dragged over stone. Prey calls, prey reveals itself. Earth breathes again. 1,000 smaller forms, her children chittered in unison. Their mandibles clicked like war drums. For the Creel, there was no question of what came next. The hunt would begin. Across the galaxy, others felt the shift. On a desert world, farmers woke screaming as their animals stampeded under a sky where no stars moved, yet all seemed to shiver. On a gas giant mining station, workers watched as their scanners went dark one by one, as if something vast had eclipsed the sensors themselves. On the Vakari flagship above Earth, Commander Threx slammed his clawed fist into the railing, snarling at his officers. They are awake. The humans have doomed themselves. The Creel will not stop. But even in his fury, there was a strange flicker of respect. He had seen civilizations kneel, beg, and silence themselves into extinction. The humans, they had answered the call willingly. They had chosen to defy the very shadow most species dared not name on Earth. Preparations accelerated. Factories that once built passenger planes now rolled out sleek fighter frames. Old silos reopened, long-abandoned defense programs sparked back to life. For the first time in history, weapons were not aimed at rival nations, but outward to the stars. Dr. Alina Marquez studied every scrap of Vakari data they could access. The Creel had weaknesses, small, narrow cracks, but their strength was overwhelming. Numbers beyond counting. Speed that shattered expectations. strategies designed to exhaust, overwhelm, and consume. Still, Alina felt no despair. Humanity had survived plagues, fires, floods, wars, not by being stronger, not by being faster, but by refusing to die. If they want to hunt, she whispered to herself, then we'll show them what kind of prey we are. Deep in the void, the Creel fleets assembled, thousands of ships aligned, jagged wings unfolding like predators stretching before the kill. They turned as one, their attention fixing on a single distant point of light, Earth. The Queen's final command rippled across the swarm, carried in shrieks and hisses that made the stars themselves seem to recoil. Find the humans, silence their world, burn their name from the dark once more. The swarm surged forward. The galaxy held its breath. They think you are prey. Soon, they will learn you are something far worse. The Creel swarm was coming. Humanity could feel it like thunder rumbling on the edge of the sky. On Earth, panic clashed with determination. Governments that once argued over borders now sat shoulder to shoulder, whispering the same grim truth. If Earth falls, there will be nothing left to argue over. Factories lit up overnight, smoke and fire churning from refitted assembly lines. Passenger planes were stripped for parts. Shipyards turned civilian cargo haulers into armored carriers. Entire cities went dark to feed power into defense grids. Humanity was building not for survival, but for war, and at the center of it all was Operation Black Sky. The plan was madness, bold, reckless, human to the core. Earth itself would become the bait. The moon was the first to change. Telescopes that once gazed at the stars now swiveled downward, their massive mirrors repurposed to focus searing beams on anything daring to enter orbit. Craters were no longer scars of rock, but silos hiding railguns the size of skyscrapers. In the void, above, thousands of small satellites drifted, seemingly abandoned. In truth, each was a disguised mine armed with warheads, hacking suites, and electromagnetic disruptors designed to cripple Creel technology. The oceans were no longer silent either. Submerged drones the size of whales patrolled the depths, carrying missiles designed to pierce even the hardest carapace. And above it all, cities dimmed their lights until Earth itself seemed to vanish into shadow. From orbit, the planet looked like prey hiding in fear, but hidden in that darkness was an arsenal waiting to be unleashed. Dr. Elena Marquez stood in the control center of Borealis Station, overseeing the launch of the final phase. Her voice carried across encrypted channels, her words calm despite the dread building in her chest. Operation Black Sky is live. Remember, we don't fight to survive. We fight to make sure they never forget us. On the orbital screens, humanity's trap glittered across space, a net of weapons, mines, and decoys. The Vakari commander, watching from his scarred flagship, stared in disbelief. His officers hissed in alarm. They are not hiding. They are drawing the swarm directly to their world. Commander Threx's jaw tightened. His voice was heavy, with something alien even to him. They're not prey. They're baiting the predators. Hours turned to days. Every telescope on Earth searched the stars. Every radar dish scanned the void. And then silence broke. The Creel had entered the system. It began as a ripple. Faint distortions in the Kuiper belt as ships larger than cities passed through. Soon, the swarm emerged in full, jagged, and endless. Thousands upon thousands of ships filled the black. Their movement was precise, unified, like a single mind spread across countless bodies. In control rooms around the globe, human leaders held their breath. Families clutched one another in basements. Soldiers manned defenses with steady hands, hiding trembling hearts. The trap was set. The prey waited, and the predators came. The first wave of Creel ships surged past Pluto, carving through the dark. At impossible speeds, more followed, blotting out the stars as they advanced. To them, Earth was nothing more than another meal, loud, defiant, foolish enough to call out, but this time, the prey was waiting with teeth bared. The Creel arrived like a plague of locusts. From the outer edge of the solar system, their swarm swept inward, an endless tide of serrated hulls, glinting like blades under distant starlight. Each ship was alive, its carapace flexing, its tendrils reaching as though hungry for the worlds ahead. From Earth, the swarm looked like a storm front devouring the constellations. And then the attack began. The first Creel ships slashed into Earth's orbit, their weapons shrieking as beams of white fire lanced down toward the blue planet. Cities below lit up in defensive counterstrikes. Railguns on the moon roared, hurling slugs at near-relativistic speeds. The first volley tore a Creel warship in half, its body splitting open like an insect crushed underfoot. The trap had sprung. Satellites that had drifted innocently through orbit came alive. Thousands detonated in brilliant flashes, unleashing hacking swarms into the Creel fleet. Systems flickered, drives faltered. Dozens of ships spun wildly out of formation, colliding with one another in a storm of fire. But the Creel did not break. They adapted. For every ship destroyed, 10 more surged forward. They swarmed Earth's defenses, mandibles gnashing, their organic hulls shifting into new forms to resist railgun fire. Entire clouds of smaller drones peeled off from the swarm, diving into the atmosphere like meteors. On the ground, Humanity bled. In New York, streaks of fire cut through the night as Creel drones slammed into skyscrapers, tearing steel apart with living claws. Soldiers in exosuits countered in the streets, their weapons spitting arcs of plasma. Civilians fled through tunnels as sirens wailed in Tokyo. The skyline burned crimson as defense mechs met the invaders head-on, blades sparking against alien scrap. In the oceans, Creel leviathans plunged into the depths, only to be met by drone submarines that erupted from the darkness, firing torpedoes that shook the seas. Everywhere, the world fought back, high above. Borealis Station became the beating heart of the defense. Dr. Alina Marquez directed electronic warfare teams, her voice sharp and relentless. Cut their command nodes. Overload their navigation. If they adapt faster. Her team unleashed wave after wave of cyberviruses, infecting Creel systems. Ships convulsed as their organic cores fought to resist, but humanity's ingenuity spread like wildfire. A single hacked Creel destroyer turned its guns on its own fleet before detonating in a chain reaction. The Vakari commander. Threx watched from orbit, his claws tightening against his console. His officers whispered in awe and terror. They learn. They adapt in moments. It took us centuries to counter the Creeland. The humans improvise in hours. Threx's scarred face twisted into something almost like a smile. They are fighting. Like us. No. They are fighting like something new. But victory was far from certain. The Creel pressed harder, waves upon waves descending without pause. Entire human squadrons were erased in flashes of light. Cities burned, skies darkened, oceans churned. Humanity's trap had bloodied the predators, but it had not stopped them. In the Pacific, a Creel flagship broke through Earth's defenses, its massive body glowing with energy as it prepared to strike the planet with a weapon that could split continents. All eyes turned skyward. Humanity's gamble hung by a thread, and still, not a single human commander gave the order to surrender. The Pacific burned. The Creel flagship, an organic fortress larger than a city, descended toward Earth, its armored carapace glowing with energy. The weapon at its core pulsed brighter and brighter, a sun about to be born, ready to split oceans and continents in one strike. On the ground below, millions watched the sky ignite. Sirens wailed. Families clutched each other in basements, temples, and subway tunnels. Soldiers braced for impact, knowing even their strongest weapons might not be enough. But in orbit, humanity was not finished. Dr. Alina Marquez stood at the center of Borealis Station, her voice sharp over the coms. Target their control core. Overload it. If we can't stop the weapon make, it stop itself. Her team flooded the flagship with cyberviruses, a swarm of human-made code burrowing into alien flesh and metal. Creel's systems twisted, convulsing as their organic processors shrieked in frequencies that made the station's walls tremble. For a moment, the weapon faltered. The glow dimmed. Then the flagship roared back, systems adapting, burning out infected nodes like a body rejecting poison. The attack had slowed them, but not stopped them. Alina clenched her jaw. Then we'll do what humans do best. We'll take what's theirs and make it ours. Above the chaos, a squadron of human drones dove through the Creel swarm, weaving between beams of white fire. At their core was something new, a boarding pod. The plan was madness. Desperate even by human standards. Land on the Creel flagship. Hijack it from within. The pod slammed into the flagship's outer shell. Soldiers in armored exosuits cut their way through, plasma blades carving into living hull. Inside was a nightmare of chitin and machinery, walls pulsing with veins of molten light. Creel drones swarmed, claws flashing, screeches echoing like hell's choir. The humans fought through, every step bought with blood, and then they found it. The control core, a pulsating brain of alien flesh, webbed in cables, humming with power. They planted the virus directly into its heart, in the skies above Earth. The Creel flagship convulsed. Its weapons spasmed, turning not outward but inward. A searing lance of energy ripped across its own hull, cleaving armor apart. The swarm hesitated. For the first time in the battle, the predators faltered, and humanity pounced. Moon-based railguns concentrated fire on the crippled flagship. Orbital drones swarmed it, hacking its systems, ripping its weapons from its control. The great predators. Bodhi became its own executioner, with a final, blinding shriek. The Creel flagship tore apart his carcass, falling into Earth's atmosphere, burning brighter than any meteor. It struck the Pacific in a titanic explosion, sending a wave taller than skyscrapers surging across the ocean. The world shook, but Earth still stood. The Creel swarm reeled. Their unity wavered. For the first time in countless hunts, they hesitated. Prey was not supposed to fight like this. Prey was not supposed to steal the predator's claws and use them against them. In the darkness of her living cathedral, the Creel Queen's many eyes narrowed. The humans had done what no prey should ever do. They had made the predators bleed. Worse, they had learned. Commander Threx, watching from his ship, bared his fangs in something between a snarl and a grin. They answered the call, he muttered, voice low with awe. And now the hunters know fear. The ocean still boiled where the Creel flagship had fallen. Its carcass smoldered beneath the Pacific, glowing red through waves that hadn't yet settled. The tidal surge had ravaged coasts, but cities still stood. Humanity still breathed. And high above, the sky was littered with burning fragments of Creel ship's wreckage from a battle. No species had ever dared fight before. Earth had survived, but survival was not the end. It was the beginning. In the days that followed, silence fell across the galaxy. Merchants whispered in hushed tones at hidden stations. Councils of ancient species stared at their maps with unease. The impossible had happened. Humanity, the forgotten world, had not only stood against the Creel, but forced them to retreat. Entire civilizations that had once erased Earth's name now rushed to remember it. And the Vakari commander, Threx, knew it was time to speak the truth. His scarred flagship hovered in Earth orbit, its hull patched with both Vakari steel and human ingenuities of cooperation forged in fire. He stood before human leaders in a secure transmission, his jagged claws drumming against the console. You wonder why we warned you not to answer the signal. Why Earth was erased from our maps. The truth is simple. His eyes, hard as obsidian, fixed on them. Humanity was feared. Once, long ago, you stood among the stars, but the galaxy could not endure what you were becoming. So we buried you, hid your world, and prayed you would never rise again." The room fell silent. Alina Marquez leaned forward, her voice steady. "You're saying we've been here before? That we already were part of the galaxy?" Threx gave a slow, grim nod. "And now, by answering the wrong call, you have returned." Earth's leaders did not flinch. They did not apologize. Instead, they looked outward. The Creel had come expecting easy prey. They had left in ruin. Humanity now wielded their tech-captured drives, hacked weapons, knowledge that civilizations had feared for centuries. Factories hummed, already reverse-engineering Creel designs. Orbital stations refitted captured ships. The world had tasted survival, and now it hungered for strength. The galaxy trembled. For the first time in eons, predators and prey alike whispered the same name, Human. At the United Earth Council's first broadcast to the stars, the message was simple. A beacon pulsed outward, riding on every stolen frequency, every hacked channel. Civilizations far and wide turned their heads as the signal reached them, burning like fire across the void. The voice was calm, but beneath it lay iron. "We are here. We hear you. Call again if you dare." Across the galaxy, the reactions were immediate. Some species locked their borders, praying to vanish before humanity noticed them. Others sharpened their fleets, knowing war was inevitable. A few, like the Vakari, felt something stranger, hope. If the humans had risen again, perhaps the galaxy would finally have a chance against the predators lurking in the dark. And in the heart of her living cathedral, the Creel Queen hissed with fury. Her prey had bidden her. She would not forget. She would return, but she feared them now. Dr. Alina Marquez stood at Borealis Station's viewport, watching the stars glitter. She knew what the rest of the galaxy had yet to accept. Earth was no longer silent. Humanity had spoken, and the universe had listened. And once humanity picked up the call, they would never put it down again.